Hi everybody, welcome back. Thanks for joining me for another royal news video. Although this unfortunately is not going to be the video that I promised. This is because some more stuff has come out regarding Meghan's Netflix trailer and we've really got to go over it because one of the accusations going around has really just made me very frustrated this morning. So I wanted to go over some historical stuff and some new stuff and just to remind people the reasons why Harry and Meghan are so very much disliked by so many people. But Meghan is reportedly raging due to the backlash by Netflix. Well, not Netflix as such. I mean, they're not helping her at all, are they? Because those comments are still open. It's making me think they've done this deliberately. I'm beginning to wonder if they really didn't want to do this show. They knew this show was going to be a flop. They know how bad it is, but they had to contractually honour it because otherwise Meghan could sue them if they hadn't. There's obviously something going on with Netflix because I can't see that they would go to the effort to suddenly launch this show out there and leave that much of a negative reaction readily available for anybody to read. Meghan has definitely broken records with the number of downvotes for a trailer for any other celebrity, I think, in such a short space of time. Now, I'm certain that most of you guys can imagine the accusation that's going around, the reason why Meghan is getting so much backlash. Yes, the race card has already been pulled, but that's kind of dead in the water when there's plenty of black, female and male chefs that have had lucrative TV careers for a number of years. Meghan is simply not liked on this trailer because everybody knows that she is fake. The more that she's publicly put herself out there, the more people have really begun to see through it. There are many reasons why her projects and charitable efforts receive backlash, and it's got nothing to do with her being biracial. It's because she is just simply not a genuine person. There are multiple reasons why people have either taken an instant dislike or a gradual dislike to Harry and Meghan. For many, it's been accumulation of things. So in this video, I want to go over some of the main moments that I know put people off of them, and it's got nothing to do with race. Now, we've got the old stuff, which is all to do the build up to the wedding, and to be honest with you, I feel like that's too historical to go over. I've got other videos on that, and I'm sure most of you know everything that has happened by now. It's been rinsed and repeated by lots of royal authors, lots of newspapers, and lots of YouTubers and other social media content creators. But I'm going to start along the line here of when people started really going off Meghan, and I mean in their droves, was when I believed she did the Oprah interview with Harry, with Prince Philip, who was quite clearly very ill, 99 years old. And Meghan got her friends to speak out and say that the royal family were using Prince Philip's illness to muzzle her, to stop her from speaking out, to silence her, which obviously he died a few weeks later. It was very clearly obvious that he was very sick. Then, of course, you've got the fact that they filmed Netflix. Knowing that the Queen was still grieving for her husband, they knew that she was sick, they must have known that she had bone cancer. The family would have told them, or perhaps they didn't, because the family decided that they couldn't trust them without running to the press and alerting everybody. But either way, it was clearly obvious that with the Philip recently passing away, that the Queen was in ill health. She never really bounced back from losing her rock. So when they filmed Netflix, they didn't know that the Queen wouldn't be alive to see it. So all the awful things that they said, that they allowed to be part of the show, trashing the Queen, trashing her legacy, the Commonwealth, involving racism, the Empire 2.0, they'd expected the Queen to see that. So again, Netflix was a big one that turned people off of Harry and Meghan that had perhaps felt somewhat sympathetic to their plight. Then, of course, a big turning point for lots of people was the way that Meghan and Harry treated Thomas Markle round about the wedding time when he had the stroke. So Thomas Markle is in hospital. This has all been proven by hospital records. Rather than being concerned for her father, the fact that he's in hospital, had a stroke and needed surgery, they were texting him, shouting at him. Harry was on the phone yelling at him, telling him who he should speak to, who he shouldn't speak to the point that Thomas got so angry he hung up the phone. The man has just had a stroke. It's almost like they were trying to finish him off. Who behaves that way to a loved one, a relative, or even just respectfully to a complete complete stranger if they're lying in hospital recovering from a heart attack and you ring them up and shout at them. Then, of course, you've got the fact that after that, Meghan cut him off dead. And the way that Meghan treated him by being so cold, she couldn't speak to the man even to give him closure. Even if she rang him up and said, I'm never speaking to you ever again, at least he could have had that final conversation. But she didn't do that. Ghosting, as far as I'm concerned, is one of the most, I think, cruel things that you can do to someone. And the fact that this is a man that gave her everything he could his entire life. He loved her, he adored her, and she was speaking to him perfectly fine, even in 2016, having a nice shared Thanksgiving dinner with Thomas Markle and Doria Ragland. So it's not like she was estranged from her father before she married Harry. And the fact is they fell out all because Thomas Markle set up some paparazzi shots, which Harry and Meghan have done and continue to do so themselves, even working with the same photographer, Jeff Rayner. Then Meghan cut off someone else, surprisingly, and it began to show her Ice Queen persona. And this was Jessica Mulroney. They had been best friends for so long. Jessica was on the phone to Meghan when she got engaged, one of the multiple stories that we heard. And then Jessica was the only woman picked to be the bridesmaid at Meghan's wedding. They went on countless holidays together. They were always stuck together like glue. Meghan got introduced to the Trudeaus and generally Toronto's top set, as it were. The two women were so close that when Jessica gave birth to her little girl Ivy, Meghan became her godmother. But the moment Jessica got into a little bit of trouble, Meghan decided to drop her like a hot potato. And after being so close for a number of years, it made people realise that Meghan doesn't really care that deeply for sisterhood. Rather than sticking by her friend and supporting her, Meghan slammed the door in her face. Then let's move on to Harry, who, as you guys know, is still promoting Africa Parks. This has disgusted a lot of people because of the heinous allegations being levelled at the park rangers who are abusing the local indigenous people, not just in the Republic of Congo, but reports in Zambia are coming out as well. Harry should have stepped down, but no, he's on the board of directors and was recently still promoting the organisation whilst he was in New York. Then we've got a big one which turned a lot of Americans off of her, and that's to do with the tragedy that hit Uvalde. Meghan took a team of photographers, assistants and security to pose for lots of photographs walking around where all of the news crews, where the makeshift memorial had temporarily been set up for all of the children that had just been killed. Meghan said that she was there in a private capacity, but who takes an entourage and walks around in front of all of the media that were gathered outside the school? She had a huge security guard with her. If Meghan didn't want her photographs taken, he would have stopped those photographers surrounding her, and those same photographers wouldn't have been getting in the same van that she arrived in. Not only that, when you think that if Meghan really cared, she would have stayed away, and the money that she would have spent on a private jet for her and all of her entourage, she could have made a big donation to go towards the families of the children and the teachers that were affected. Now, Meghan has since been back to Uvalde, and she met with one of the sons of a teacher who was killed, and she took them a birthday cake to surprise them. Obviously, this was all captured and recorded, and Meghan was the one holding the cake singing happy birthday to them. Now, whilst this might have been a nice surprise for some, I think it was carefully calculated, because now when you type in Meghan Uvalde, you get a lot of pictures of Meghan singing happy birthday rather than Meghan laying flowers and walking around in front of all of the news crews. Now, this wasn't the only time that Meghan had used Uvalde alongside her Archwell Foundation with Harry, and that's because they were involved with a new playground that was being built. The newspapers ran the story, as expected, that it was Archwell that helped build a playground, but in fact it was 13 other organisations that had come together, plus the local community, to help raise funds and design it. As of August 2023, Archwell were not even mentioned. Then they made a donation, they sent a few t-shirts. Archwell promoted it like it was their idea, their hard work, and their funds. Now, I'm not saying that they didn't contribute, but it's the way that they advertised it like it was them that came up with it. Now, this is something that Harry and Meghan continuously do with organisations and with charities. They make a donation to an organisation and then they partner up with them. They take a photographer and a film crew and voila, they take credit for other people's good deeds, and it's not their initiative, it's not their hard work, and it's certainly not their boots that are on the ground. It's performance philanthropy. If you need everybody to give you a round of applause and to give you a clap because you've done something good, it kind of takes the good out of it. One perfect example is World Central Kitchen. When Meghan and Harry partnered with them that very same year, they released their impact report from Archwell. Look at the wording for the things that they did. It says, our impact. And it would seem that not only were they responsible for handing out all of the meals, they also rescued 7,468 refugees and supplied 12.6 million COVID vaccines. But when several volunteers from World Kitchen were killed across two separate incidences, not a peep from them. Perhaps they are now snubbing the organisation after owner Jose Andres joined the Earthshot Prize. Let's be honest, those two would be petty enough. But as I've said, this is mostly historical things that have turned people against the couple. But there are definitely more things recently that have come to light that show Harry and Meghan for their true nature. Let's talk Better Up that have been back in the news. This is the Silicone Valley mental fitness coaching firm that Harry has forced onto the Invictus athletes. Several employees, some former, have said it's a toxic train wreck of a company, a psychologically unsafe place to work, a place where people dry and shrivel up. It's predatory, elitist, they have no moral compass, concerns about confidentiality of discussions and privacy during coaching calls, high burnouts of staff. Everybody hates their job that works there. But of course, Harry doesn't care. He still took his £1 million payout as 16% of their workforce for financial underperformance and internal challenges. Internal challenges, it sounds like a hellhole. But of course, why would Harry care about their staff when he never cared about his own? It's not just the older stories of the bad treatment of the palace staff. We've had new stories come out. As you guys probably remember, The Hollywood Reporter and the Daily Beast broke some pretty big tales from former staff of Archwell, one current member of staff as well. They spoke, I believe it was 11 or 12 people, that the magazine actually said that they would stand by everything that's been said if Meghan and Harry tried to sue. So who are you going to believe? Harry and Meghan that lie about everything to everyone, or The Hollywood Reporter, the Hollywood Bible? Meghan was called a demon dictator in heels, a relentless boss who has psycho moments, who screams, shouts and leaves people in tears, even grown men. Harry is just as complacent because, as I said, he allows his wife to treat everyone like this, so he's just as guilty as her. I remember when Archwell audio boss quit, Rebecca Sananez, a few days later after quitting Archwell because of archetypes, she did a TikTok and she said that her former boss had never given her credit and archetypes was her idea. Well, it's pretty obvious who her former boss was. And you think to yourself, Meghan plagiarising, that doesn't sound like her at all, does it? Another big moment that turned people massively off of Harry specifically was when Harry appeared on the Tom Bradby interview after he had released Spare. Tom Bradby was the man who helped Harry and Meghan turn a royal visit to South Africa into the makings of their victim narrative and Megxit, and subsequently lost him his friendship with Prince William. Well, he certainly ended up as shocked as the rest of the nation, as Harry said that he and Meghan have never accused the royal family of being racist. You could practically hear Tom Bradby's brain malfunction as Harry tried to gaslight him. Tom said, "You accused members of your family of racism." "No, I didn't. The British press said that." "Did Meghan ever mention that they were racist?" Aghast, Tom responded, "Well, there were concerns raised over the colour of Archie's skin. Wouldn't you say that that was racist?" "No, I wouldn't, not having lived within that family." Well, shame he couldn't have said that before the Queen and Prince Philip had taken to their graves. He allowed the vicious rumours of racism to continue, attacks from all around the world being targeted at his family, even collecting an award for fighting structural racism within the royal family. Clearly, he thinks everybody is as stupid and as forgetful as he seems to be. Then let's talk about the fact Harry and Meghan went to Nigeria and Colombia last year, countries that do have beautiful parts and lots of wealthy parts, but also have extreme poverty and dangerously high crime rates in other areas. They allowed hundreds of thousands of pounds of taxpayers' cash to be used for their personal little jaunts, even closing off areas where some of the poorer communities lived. Can't have them ruining the aesthetics, can they now? All these police and military resources were taken away from the public, who, let's be honest, probably needed them a lot more. Yes, Harry and Meghan were guests of honour. The blame, of course, does go on to the governments of these countries that invited them. But Harry and Meghan, being the true humanitarians they like to tell everybody that they are, surely they would turn it down, or at the very least, ask them to tone it down, because they are not the president and the first lady, and they did not need that much security being spent on them. Meghan just simply doesn't care about the little people. The handbag company she's recently partnered up with, paying Rwandan women just 10p per hour. They have no job security, some even having to pay for the materials and a room to work in out of that 10p per hour, yet the bags sell for the best part of $1,000 per piece. She doesn't care about those women. She cares the fact that she's got to flounce around with lots of freebies. So let's not entirely talk about Meghan, because they come as a pair and they are both equally as unlikable and as bad as each other. A couple of recent appearances have not shown him in a good light. Harry attended the 2024 Grey Cup, which was the Canadian football final, and he gave an interview to the Sports Network to promote Invictus. The papers said how lovely he came across, how professional and how happy he was, and how he may even have a career as a sporting commentator. Now, I watched it for myself, and Harry came across as obnoxious and rude. No matter how much the host was trying to get Harry to talk about the game, Harry just flatly shut him down. It was clear that Harry didn't care about the game. He wasn't even trying to fake it. Any mention of the game and what was going on, Harry's just like, yeah, let's go. Oh, I don't really know. And it's like, well, you're using their airtime to promote your project. The least you could do is just pretend you actually care about the sport.
I guess as a role of Prince, you're not allowed to be partisan. Can you make a prediction for today's game, or no? Do you have to stay neutral?
I'm not going to make a prediction for today.
I knew you would.
And you could also tell by the end of the interview that the host had had enough. Now, it's not Harry's only recent appearance where he's behaved like that. Let's talk about the Deal Book Summit in New York. The newspapers naturally ran a side to Harry, which I myself again sat there and watched it, and I didn't see. Yet again, he was obnoxious, he was smarmy, he was very rude with his answers to the host, Andrew Ross Sorkin. He showed a very unpleasant side to his personality. Now, speaking of which, who can forget Harry going to a Canadian hockey game and dropping the puck? It's not that bit that people remember, it's the fact that during the national anthem, at the game, which was being held in honour of autism acceptance, Meghan's mean girl smirks and looking at Harry as Mariah Reitmer was singing. She herself is very open about her autism, and the way she looks at Harry, she's trying to get him to join in. This time, Harry ignored her, but he hasn't done in the past. She and Harry did the same when Liam Payne was performing at the Commonwealth service. Those two are peas in a pod, and for too long, many of us, myself included in the beginning, blamed Meghan for bringing out the worst in Harry. But the truth is, it was always there. It was just waiting for the right person to come along and nurture it. After all of the nasty and relentless attacks on his family by both of them, most of which has been proven to be lies, which was designed to cause maximum damage to the royal family on a public stage. This wasn't just a family argument. They tried to turn the public against the royal family. I mean, that's a pretty low blow in itself. There's one thing, it's bad enough airing your dirty laundry, but to try and weaponize the public to attack your family when, as I said, most of the stuff was completely fabricated anyway. Then, of course, you've got Meghan's cruelty to her father and the way that she has clearly been treating staff across multiple countries. Meghan has clearly stepped on a lot of people, or rather trampled on people, in her quest for fame and fortune. And it's ridiculous to try and push this sickly sweet candy floss coated version of themselves and expect people to swallow it. The problem is with Meghan's cooking show and her reinventing herself as this lovely Stratford wife, everything's sugar and spice and all that's nice. No matter how much frosted pink icing Meghan wraps herself up in, she is never going to be seen as a sweet and kind person. Some people will always drink the Kool-Aid, but most people are waking up and they can see the way that Harry and Meghan behave is the reason why they get so much negative backlash. The proof, as they say, is always in the pudding. So guys, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. I'll speak to you soon. Take care for now. Bye.